My name is Evelyn Carter, and I'm 73 years old. I raised my granddaughter Mia from the time she was 8 years old after my daughter and son-in-law died in a plane crash. For 15 years, it was just the two of us, me working as a high school principal while raising a heartbroken little girl into a confident, beautiful woman. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for standing at my granddaughter's wedding reception last month, watching everything unfold perfectly, when suddenly someone I didn't recognize walked up to the microphone during the speeches, and everything I thought I knew about my family shattered into pieces. The wedding had been beautiful. Mia looked stunning in her lace gown. Her groom Nathan was handsome and clearly in love. 200 guests filled the elegant ballroom. I'd given my speech as Mia's guardian, talking about raising her, about watching her grow from a grieving child into this remarkable woman, about how proud I was. Everyone had cried. Everyone had applauded. It was perfect. Then came the other speeches. The maid of honor, the best man, Nathan's parents, all beautiful, all appropriate, all expected. The DJ announced that speeches were complete. Dinner was about to be served. Mia and Nathan were smiling, holding hands at the head table. That's when a woman stood up from one of the back tables. She was probably in her early 50s, wearing a simple navy dress. I didn't recognize her. I assumed she was one of Nathan's relatives. She walked straight to the DJ booth and asked for the microphone. The DJ looked confused but handed it to her. "Excuse me," the woman said, her voice carrying through the ballroom. "I know I'm not on the speech list, but there's something that needs to be said, something about the bride, something that everyone in this room should know before this celebration goes any further." The room went silent. Mia's face went white. Nathan looked confused, and I felt my heart start to pound because something in this woman's voice, something in the way she was looking at my granddaughter, told me this wasn't going to be good. "My name is Katherine Hayes," the woman continued, "and I have information about Mia Carter that changes everything you think you know about her." Mia stood up from the head table, her hands shaking. "Please don't." "Don't what? Don't tell the truth? Mia, these people deserve to know, especially your husband, especially your grandmother who raised you." I stood up, my voice sharp. "Excuse me, but who are you? And what gives you the right to interrupt my granddaughter's wedding?" Katherine looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. "Mrs. Carter, I'm sorry to do this at your granddaughter's wedding, but I've tried for months to reach Mia privately. She's been avoiding me, blocking my calls, refusing to respond to my letters, so I had to come here, because what I have to tell her, what I have to tell all of you, it can't wait any longer." "Then tell us," I said, my voice cold. "What is this information that's so important you'd crash a wedding to share it?" Katherine took a deep breath. She looked at Mia, then at me, then at the confused guests filling the ballroom. "Mia Carter isn't who you think she is. And the story you've all been told about her parents dying in a plane crash, that's not the whole truth, not even close." The words hung in the air. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Mia was crying now, her face in her hands. Nathan had his arm around her, looking completely lost. "What are you talking about?" I demanded. "My daughter and son-in-law died in a plane crash 15 years ago. I was the one who identified their bodies. I was the one who took custody of Mia. I know what happened to my own child." "You know what you were told happened," Katherine said quietly. "But Mrs. Carter, there's more to the story, much more, and it's time everyone knew the truth." Before I tell you what Katherine revealed, before I explain how everything I believed about my family was built on lies, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that subscribe button. Click it. Then smash that like button, because this story is about to show you how family secrets can hide in plain sight for years, and how one moment at a wedding can expose everything. Turn on those notifications, that bell icon, because you need to hear what happened when that microphone changed hands and the truth finally came out. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. What city? What state? What country? I want to know who's here with me today, because what Katherine revealed at that wedding, what she knew about Mia, about my daughter, about secrets that had been buried for 15 years, it's going to shock you. It shocked me, and it changed everything about how I understood my own family. Now let me take you back to the beginning. Let me tell you about Mia, about raising her, and about the events that led to that moment when a stranger took the microphone and shattered everything I thought I knew. To understand what happened at that wedding, you need to understand how Mia came to live with me and what our relationship was like. 15 years ago, I got the worst phone call of my life. My daughter Sarah and her husband Marcus had been killed in a small plane crash. They'd been flying to a business conference when the plane went down. No survivors. I was devastated. Sarah was my only child. She was 32 years old, vibrant, successful, full of life. And suddenly she was gone. But I couldn't fall apart completely because Sarah and Marcus had a daughter. Mia. She was 8 years old, and she needed me. I'd always been close with Mia. I'd babysit her often, take her for weekends, spoil her the way grandmothers do. But suddenly I wasn't her grandmother anymore. I was her guardian, her parent. The first year was hard. Mia was grieving terribly. She'd wake up crying in the middle of the night, calling for her mommy. She'd refuse to eat. She'd sit in her room staring at photos of Sarah and Marcus for hours. I took her to therapy, a child psychologist who specialized in grief. It helped, slowly. Mia started to heal, started to laugh again, started to engage with life. I retired early from my job as a high school principal to focus on raising her. I sold my house and bought a smaller one in a better school district. I rearranged my entire life around making sure Mia had stability, love, and everything she needed to thrive despite the tragedy. And Mia did thrive. She was a good student. She made friends. She joined the drama club and discovered a love for theater. She seemed to be healing, moving forward. But there were moments, strange moments, when something would seem off. When Mia was 10, she asked me, "Grandma, did Mom and Dad love each other?" "Of course they did, sweetheart. Why would you ask that?" "I just remember them fighting sometimes. Yelling, Mom would cry. All couples fight sometimes. It doesn't mean they didn't love each other." "But did they ever talk about getting divorced?" "Not that I know of. Honey, where's this coming from?" "I don't know, I just have these memories. Of Mom being sad, of Dad being angry, of things not being okay." "Those are probably just confused memories from a difficult time. Your parents loved each other very much." But I wondered. Sarah and Marcus had seemed happy enough when I saw them, but I didn't see them every day. I didn't know what their marriage was really like behind closed doors. When Mia was 13, she started asking questions about the plane crash. "Grandma, where were Mom and Dad going when the plane crashed?" "To a business conference, in Denver." "What kind of business conference?" "I don't remember the details, honey. Something for your dad's work." "But why did Mom go? She didn't work with Dad." "She went to keep him company. They made it a little trip together." "That seems weird. Mom hated Dad's business trips. She always complained about them." "Maybe she wanted to make an effort, to support him. Or maybe there was another reason." "What do you mean?" "I don't know. It just feels like there's stuff you're not telling me." "Mia, I've told you everything I know. Your parents died in a plane crash. It was a terrible accident. There's no secret, no hidden information." But Mia looked at me with those sharp eyes, Sarah's eyes, and I could tell she didn't quite believe me. The truth was, there were things about the crash I didn't understand, things that hadn't made sense to me at the time. For one thing, Sarah and Marcus had left Mia with me for what they said would be a 3-day trip. But when I looked at their travel documents after the crash, they'd booked tickets for 10 days. Why lie about how long they'd be gone? For another thing, Sarah had seemed strange the last time I saw her. Anxious, distracted. When I'd asked if everything was okay, she'd said, "Everything's fine, Mom. I just need to take care of some things." "What things?" "Just things. I'll tell you about it when I get back." But she never got back, and I never found out what things she needed to take care of. Still, I convinced myself these were just minor mysteries. Normal questions that would never have answers because the people who could answer them were gone. When Mia was 16, something happened that should have warned me, should have made me ask more questions. A man showed up at our house. He was maybe 50 years old, well-dressed, professional-looking. "I'm looking for Mia Carter," he said when I answered the door. "Who's asking?" "My name is Robert Hayes. I was a friend of her father's. I heard about the accident. I wanted to check on Mia, make sure she was doing okay." "That's very kind of you, but Mia's fine. She's healing. She doesn't need reminders of what happened." "I understand. But Mrs. Carter, I have some information about Marcus, about circumstances around the crash. I think Mia deserves to know." "Deserves to know what?" "That her father died. She already knows that. And she doesn't need you showing up 15 years later with whatever story you're selling." "I'm not selling anything. I'm trying to help." "Then help by leaving us alone. Mia has been through enough. She doesn't need strangers showing up claiming to have information about her dead father." I closed the door in his face. I watched through the window as he stood there for a moment, then walked back to his car and drove away. I didn't tell Mia about his visit. I told myself I was protecting her, shielding her from whatever painful information this stranger might have. But now, looking back, I wonder if I was protecting her or protecting myself, protecting the story I'd built, the narrative I'd created about Sarah and Marcus's perfect marriage ending in tragic accident. When Mia was 18 and preparing for college, she started asking questions again. "Grandma, I want to know more about Mom and Dad, not just the nice stories, the real stuff, what they were really like." "I've told you what they were like, honey. You've told me the sanitized version, the grandmother version. But I'm an adult now. I want the truth. Were they happy? Was their marriage good? Were they good parents?" "Yes to all of those things." "Then why do I have memories of Mom crying, of Dad slamming doors, of them fighting in their bedroom late at night when they thought I was asleep?" "All couples fight." "Stop saying that. Grandma, I know you're hiding something. I've known for years. There's something about Mom and Dad, about their relationship, about the crash, about everything, that you're not telling me, and I need to know what it is." "There's nothing to tell. Your parents loved each other and they loved you. They died in a tragic accident. That's the truth." "Is it? Because I've done some research. I found the crash report online, and there are things in it that don't make sense." "What things?" "The plane was headed to Denver, but the crash site was in Arizona, hundreds of miles off course. Why would they be in Arizona if they were going to Colorado?" "I don't know. Maybe they changed their plans. Maybe there was bad weather and they had to reroute." "The weather was clear. I checked. Grandma, something doesn't add up, and I think you know what it is." "I don't know anything you don't know. Mia, please. Can we just leave the past in the past?" "No, because the past affects my present, my future. I need to understand where I came from, who my parents really were, and why you won't tell me the truth." "But I didn't tell her. I couldn't. Because the truth was, I didn't know what the truth was. I had questions too, doubts, suspicions. But I'd buried them for years because facing them would mean admitting that my daughter's life and death might have been more complicated than I wanted to believe. When Mia was 21, she met Nathan. He was a good man, kind, stable, from a nice family. They dated for 2 years, got engaged, started planning their wedding. I was thrilled. Mia deserved happiness. She deserved a fresh start with someone who loved her. The wedding planning was mostly smooth. Mia wanted a big celebration, 200 guests, elegant venue, all the traditional elements. I was happy to help pay for it. After all, I was the closest thing Mia had to a parent. This was my responsibility and my joy. But there were moments when Mia seemed stressed about more than just wedding logistics. "Grandma, do you think I should try to find some of Mom and Dad's old friends? Invite them to the wedding? We don't really keep in touch with anyone from their lives. It's been 15 years. "I know, but don't you think they'd want to be there? Don't you think they'd want to see what I've become?" "Honey, most of them have moved on, started new lives. They wouldn't expect an invitation." "What about Dad's family? His parents died before I was born, but didn't he have siblings?" "He had a brother, but they weren't close. I don't even know where he lives now." "Could we try to find him? I'd like to have some family from Dad's side at my wedding." Mia, why are you suddenly so interested in your dad's family? Because they're my family too, and I barely know anything about them. It's like half of my heritage is just missing. Don't you think that's strange? Your father didn't talk much about his family. He had a difficult childhood. I think he wanted to leave that behind. Or maybe there's more to it than that. 3 months before the wedding, Mia came to me looking upset. Someone contacted me, a woman named Katherine Hayes. She says she knew Mom and Dad. She says she has information about them, about the crash. My heart started pounding. Hayes, the same last name as the man who'd shown up at our house years ago. What kind of information? She wouldn't say over the phone. She wants to meet with me in person. Grandma, should I meet her? Absolutely not. She's probably a scammer. Someone trying to take advantage of you because you're getting married, because you're vulnerable. I'm not vulnerable, I'm curious. There are questions I've had my whole life, questions you won't answer. Maybe she has answers. Mia, please, don't go digging into the past. Your parents are gone. Whatever this woman claims to know, it won't bring them back. It will only cause pain. What if I want to know anyway? What if I have a right to know the truth about my own parents? The truth is that they loved you and they died tragically. That's the truth. Is it though? Or is that just the truth you want me to believe? Mia didn't meet with Katherine. At least I didn't think she did. She stopped mentioning her. The wedding planning continued. Everything seemed fine. Until the wedding day. Until that perfect reception. Until Katherine Hayes stood up and took that microphone and said those words. Mia Carter isn't who you think she is. And that's when I learned that my granddaughter had been keeping secrets from me. Big secrets. Secrets that connected to my daughter's death. Secrets that Katherine Hayes had come to expose in front of 200 wedding guests. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The ballroom was completely silent. 200 guests staring at Katherine Hayes holding the microphone. Mia crying at the head table. Nathan looking between his new wife and this stranger with growing alarm. And me, standing there feeling like the ground was crumbling beneath my feet. Please, Mia said, her voice breaking. Katherine, please don't do this. Not here, not now. You left me no choice, Katherine said, her voice firm but not unkind. I've been trying to reach you for 8 months. 8 months of calls, emails, letters. You blocked me everywhere. You refused to meet with me. What was I supposed to do? You were supposed to leave me alone. You were supposed to let me live my life. Even if that life is built on lies. Even if your grandmother, Katherine looked at me, doesn't know the whole truth about her own daughter's death. I found my voice. I know my daughter died in a plane crash. I identified her body. I buried her. What more is there to know? Katherine's expression softened. Mrs. Carter, please sit down. You're going to want to sit down for this. I'm not sitting down. And you're going to explain yourself right now, or I'm calling security. Nathan stood up. Everyone, maybe we should take a break. Let the families talk privately. No, I said sharply. This woman chose to do this publicly. She wanted everyone to hear whatever she has to say, so let her say it, now. Katherine took a deep breath. Mrs. Carter, my name is Katherine Hayes. I was married to Robert Hayes. Robert was Marcus Carter's business partner for 7 years before the crash. The name hit me like a slap. Robert Hayes. The man who'd shown up at my house years ago, trying to tell me something about Marcus. Robert and Marcus ran an investment firm together, Katherine continued. They were very successful, until Robert discovered that Marcus had been embezzling money from their clients. Millions of dollars. Marcus had hidden the theft well, but Robert found evidence. He confronted Marcus 2 weeks before the plane crash. The ballroom erupted in whispers, guests turning to each other, confused and shocked. Nathan's parents looked horrified, and Mia had her face in her hands, shoulders shaking. You're lying, I said, though my voice didn't sound convincing even to myself. I'm not lying. Mrs. Carter, Marcus was facing prison time. 20 years, maybe more. Robert had given him 2 choices, turn himself in and cooperate with authorities, or Robert would report him himself. Marcus had 1 week to decide. That doesn't make sense. If Marcus was embezzling money, where did it go? We didn't have millions of dollars. We lived in a modest house, drove normal cars. There was no evidence of sudden wealth. Because Marcus wasn't keeping the money for himself, he was sending it to someone else. Someone he was protecting. Someone who needed it desperately. Who? Katherine looked at Mia. Your daughter, Sarah, Mia's mother. Marcus was embezzling money to support Sarah's addiction. The words didn't make sense. I heard them, but they seemed to bounce off my brain, unable to penetrate. That's insane. Sarah didn't have an addiction. She was a successful real estate agent. She was healthy, productive. She was a high-functioning addict, Katherine said quietly. Prescription pills, mostly, painkillers. She'd started taking them after a car accident 5 years before her death. The accident left her with chronic back pain, and the pills were supposed to be temporary. But she got hooked. And as the addiction progressed, she needed more and more money to feed it. No, this is ridiculous. I would have known if my daughter was an addict. I saw her regularly. She never showed signs. She was very good at hiding it. Addicts often are, especially in the beginning. But Mrs. Carter, think back. Were there times when Sarah seemed off? Times when she was unusually tired or unusually energetic? Times when she made excuses for why she couldn't see you? I thought back, and with horrible clarity, I remembered moments I dismissed at the time. Sarah canceling plans because she wasn't feeling well. Sarah seeming spacey and unfocused during visits. Sarah losing weight and blaming it on stress. Sarah's mood swings, angry one day, euphoric the next. I'd chalked it all up to life stress, to the pressures of work and motherhood and marriage I'd never considered. Even if what you're saying is true, and I'm not saying it is, that doesn't explain the plane crash. It doesn't explain why they died. Katherine hesitated. That's where the story gets more complicated. When Robert confronted Marcus about the embezzlement, Marcus admitted everything. He told Robert about Sarah's addiction. He begged Robert to give him more time. Said he needed to get Sarah into rehab first, needed to protect his family. Robert agreed to give him 2 weeks instead of 1 week. Why are you telling us this? Nathan asked, his arm around Mia. What does any of this have to do with now, with our wedding? Because the plane crash wasn't an accident, Katherine said softly. Marcus and Sarah weren't going to a business conference. They were running. The room seemed to tilt. I grabbed the back of a chair to steady myself. Running from what? From the investigation, from the consequences. Robert had given Marcus 2 weeks, but Marcus knew that once those 2 weeks were up, everything would fall apart. He'd go to prison. Sarah's addiction would become public. They'd lose everything. So they planned to disappear, to start over somewhere else with the money Marcus had embezzled. That's insane. They wouldn't abandon Mia. They weren't abandoning her. They were planning to come back for her once they'd established themselves somewhere new, somewhere without extradition. They'd left her with you, telling you it was for 3 days but booking tickets for 10 days. They were buying time. Then why did the plane crash? If they were running away, why didn't they make it? Katherine's eyes filled with tears. Because my husband Robert was on that plane. He'd figured out what Marcus was planning. He'd tracked their real flight, and he confronted them. At the airport, he forced his way onto the plane. He was trying to stop them, trying to make them face the consequences of what they'd done instead of running. Oh my God, someone in the crowd whispered. The plane crashed because there was a physical altercation. Marcus and Robert fought. In the cockpit, the pilot lost control, and everyone died. Marcus, Sarah, Robert, the pilot, all because of Marcus's crimes and his decision to run rather than face them. I couldn't breathe, couldn't process what I was hearing. My daughter, my Sarah, a drug addict. My son-in-law, a criminal. Their death's not a tragic accident but the result of their own terrible choices. You're making this up, I said desperately. You're telling lies about dead people who can't defend themselves. I have proof. Katherine reached into her purse and pulled out a folder. Copies of the embezzlement evidence, Robert's notes about confronting Marcus, the real flight itinerary. Sarah's prescription records showing multiple doctors, multiple pharmacies, hundreds of pills. It's all here. She tried to hand me the folder, but I couldn't take it, couldn't touch it, because accepting that folder meant accepting that everything I believed about my daughter was a lie. Mia stood up from the head table. Her makeup was ruined from crying, but her voice was steady. "Grandma, it's true, all of it. I've known for 8 months." I turned to look at my granddaughter, the girl I'd raised, the woman I thought I knew, and felt betrayal wash over me. You've known. You've known for 8 months and you didn't tell me." "I couldn't tell you. You've spent 15 years protecting me from the truth, creating this perfect story about my perfect parents who died in a tragic accident. How could I tell you that story was a lie? That mom was an addict and dad was a criminal, and they died trying to run away from the consequences." "How did you find out?" "Katherine found me last spring. She showed up at my apartment with all the evidence. At first, I didn't believe her. I thought she was crazy or lying or trying to hurt me. But then I looked at the evidence. I read Robert's notes. I saw the prescription records. And I realized it was all true." "Why didn't you come to me? Why didn't we talk about this together?" "Because I was ashamed. Because I didn't want to believe it. Because I'd spent my whole life thinking my parents were these tragic heroes, and finding out they were deeply flawed people who made terrible choices. It destroyed me, Grandma. It destroyed everything I thought I knew about myself." "So you kept it secret. You lied to me for 8 months." "I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you something you didn't want to know. You've been lying to yourself about Mom and Dad for 15 years. You've ignored every sign that something was wrong because you wanted to believe in the perfect daughter, the perfect son-in-law, the perfect tragedy. Well, it wasn't perfect. It was messy and complicated and full of mistakes." I felt tears streaming down my face. "How could you keep this from me? How could you let me go on believing a lie? How could you keep the truth from me for 15 years? You had to have known something was wrong. You had to have had suspicions. But you never said anything. You never asked questions. You just built this fairy tale and expected me to believe it." She was right. God help me, she was right. I had had suspicions. I had noticed things, but I'd pushed them away, buried them, refused to examine them too closely. Nathan spoke up, his voice shaky. "Mia, why didn't you tell me? We're married. We're supposed to share everything." "I was going to tell you. After the wedding. After we got back from our honeymoon. I was going to sit you down and show you everything and hope you'd still love me knowing that my parents were criminals." "Of course I'd still love you. You're not responsible for what they did." "Aren't I? Their choices shaped my entire life. I grew up without parents because they chose addiction and crime over me. I was raised by my grandmother who created a fantasy to protect me. My whole childhood was built on lies. How am I supposed to not feel responsible for that?" Katherine stepped forward. "Mia, that's why I've been trying to reach you. That's why I needed to talk to you before your wedding. Because you're carrying shame that isn't yours to carry. Your parents made terrible choices, yes, but you didn't make those choices. You're not defined by their mistakes." "Then why tell everyone?" Mia demanded. "Why come here and expose everything in front of my wedding guests? How is that helping me?" "Because you were running from the truth just like your parents ran. You were building your marriage on a foundation of secrets, and I couldn't let you do that. I couldn't let you start your life with Nathan while hiding who you really are." "I know who I am." "Do you? Or do you know who your grandmother wanted you to be? The perfect granddaughter from the perfect tragic family. Mia, you deserve to be loved for who you actually are, not for who people think you are. And that means Nathan and his family and everyone who loves you, they need to know the truth." Nathan's mother stood up, her face pale. "I think we need a break. This is too much to process all at once." "No," I said, finding my voice. "Katherine came here to tell the truth, so let her finish. Tell us everything. No more secrets, no more lies, just the truth." Katherine nodded. "Mrs. Carter, there's one more thing. Something I think you need to know about the crash. About what happened in those final moments." "What?" "Robert left a voicemail. For me. From the plane just before it went down. He knew they were going to crash. And he used his last moments to leave a message." She pulled out her phone, pressed play, and Robert Hayes's voice filled the ballroom. "Katherine, if you're hearing this, it means I didn't make it. I'm on a plane with Marcus and Sarah Carter, and we're going down. I want you to know I tried. I tried to stop them from running. I tried to make them face what they'd done, but Marcus fought me, and now we're all going to die because of it." There was a pause, sounds of chaos in the background, screaming alarms. "Tell Mia Marcus and Sarah's daughter tell her that her parents loved her. In their own broken way, they loved her." Sarah's last words before the crash were about Mia. She said, "Tell my baby I'm sorry. Tell her I wanted to be better. Tell her I loved her more than anything. Katherine, please find Mia when she's older. Please tell her the truth. She deserves to know who her parents really were. Not the lie everyone will tell her, but the truth. Promise me." The voicemail ended. The ballroom was silent except for the sound of Mia sobbing. I walked over to my granddaughter. I pulled her into my arms, and I held her while she cried for the parents she'd lost, for the truth she'd learned, for the lies we'd both been living. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry, baby. You're right. I should have been honest with you. I should have told you what I knew and suspected. I should have let you grieve for real people instead of fantasies. I just wanted to believe they loved me," Mia sobbed. "I just wanted to believe they were good people who had something terrible happen to them, not that they were bad people who caused something terrible." They weren't bad people. They were broken people who made terrible choices. There's a difference. And yes, baby, they loved you. That voicemail proves it. Your mother's last thoughts were of you. But she still chose drugs over me. She still chose to run away. If she really loved me, she would have stayed. She would have gotten help. She would have chosen me. I had no answer for that, because Mia was right. Addiction had made Sarah choose drugs over her daughter. Crime had made Marcus choose escape over facing consequences, and those choices had cost them everything. Katherine spoke quietly. "Mia, I lost my husband because of your parents' choices. I've spent 15 years angry about that, bitter. But I've also learned something. Holding on to anger and resentment only hurts me. It doesn't change what happened. It doesn't bring Robert back. The only thing that helps is the truth and forgiveness." How can I forgive them? How can I forgive people who abandoned me? By understanding that they were sick. Addiction is a disease. Marcus's crime was wrong, absolutely. But he did it to help the woman he loved. They made terrible choices, but those choices came from pain, not malice. They didn't want to hurt you. They wanted to protect you. They just went about it in the worst possible way. Nathan pulled Mia close. "Whatever your parents did, whatever mistakes they made, you're not them. You're you, and I love you. Nothing I learned today changes that." "How can you say that? My parents were criminals." "Your parents were your parents. You're my wife. And I married you, not your family history. Mia, I don't care what happened 15 years ago. I care about who you are now, who we are together." Mia looked at him with so much love and pain and hope. "You really mean that?" "I really mean that. But Mia, no more secrets. If we're going to build a life together, it has to be built on truth, on honesty. Can you promise me that?" "I promise." I looked around the ballroom. 200 guests staring at us. Some looked shocked. Some looked sympathetic. Some looked uncomfortable. All of them had just witnessed the most dramatic moment of what should have been a perfect wedding celebration. "I think," I said quietly, "we should take that break now. Let people process what they've heard. Let the family talk privately." Katherine nodded. "I've said what I came to say. The truth is out. What you all do with it is up to you." She set the microphone down and walked toward the exit. But before she left, she turned back to Mia. "Your parents loved you, Mia. Remember that. Not the perfect love you wished for, but the broken, complicated love they had. It wasn't enough to save them, but it was real. Don't forget that." Then she was gone, and we were left standing there, me, Mia, Nathan, and 200 guests, trying to figure out what to do with the truth that had just shattered everything. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The ballroom slowly emptied as guests awkwardly filtered out, murmuring to each other, glancing back at us with a mixture of pity and curiosity. The wedding coordinator looked panicked, unsure whether to serve dinner or cancel everything. Nathan's parents stood frozen by their table, looking like they'd been hit by a truck. I guided Mia and Nathan toward a private room off the main ballroom. Nathan's parents followed, along with his sister Emily. We needed to talk away from the staring guests. Once we were alone, Mia collapsed into a chair, still crying. Nathan knelt beside her, holding her hands. His mother, Patricia, stood by the door looking shell-shocked. His father, Richard, paced, running his hands through his hair. "I need to understand something," Patricia said, her voice tight. "Mia, you've known about this for 8 months, since before Nathan proposed." "Yes," Mia whispered. "And you didn't think that was information we deserved to know, before our son married into your family." "Patricia," I said sharply, "Mia is not responsible for what her parents did." "I'm not saying she is, but we had a right to know the truth about our daughter-in-law's background, about the fact that her parents were criminals who died trying to flee the country." "My parents were sick," Mia said, her voice stronger now. "My mother had an addiction. My father made terrible choices trying to help her. That doesn't make me a criminal. That doesn't make me less worthy of your son." "I didn't say it did." "But you're thinking it. You're standing there wondering if your son made a mistake marrying me, wondering if my parents' problems are genetic, wondering if I'm going to turn out like them." Patricia's silence was answer enough. Nathan stood up, his voice hard. "Mom, stop. Right now, Mia is my wife. I love her. And I don't care what her parents did 15 years ago. It doesn't change who she is." "Nathan, be reasonable. We know nothing about this family's history. What if there are other secrets? What if?" "What if what? What if Mia inherited some criminal gene? That's not how it works, Mom. And even if it was, I wouldn't care. I married Mia because she's kind, talented, honest." "She wasn't honest," Richard interjected. "She kept this secret for 8 months." "She kept it because she was processing it," Nathan shot back. "Because she just learned that everything she believed about her parents was a lie. How was she supposed to tell me something she was still trying to understand herself?" Mia looked at me, tears streaming down her face. "Grandma, say something, please. Tell them I'm not like my parents. Tell them I'm not going to ruin Nathan's life." I crossed the room and took Mia's face in my hands. "You are nothing like your parents. Yes, you made a mistake keeping this secret, but that doesn't define you. You're strong, resilient, and full of integrity. Your parents' failures don't diminish your worth." "But I lied to you for 8 months. I watched you talk about Mom and Dad like they were heroes, and I didn't correct you. I let you keep believing a fantasy because I was too cowardly to face the truth. You were protecting me, just like I spent 15 years protecting you. We were both wrong, but we were wrong because we loved each other and wanted to shield each other from pain. That's not cowardly. That's human." Patricia spoke again, her voice softer now. "Mrs. Carter, I'm not trying to attack Mia, but you have to understand this changes things. Nathan and Mia are starting their life together. They need honesty. They need to know everything about each other. And this secret, it's a big one. It makes me worry about what foundation their marriage is built on." "It's built on love," Nathan said firmly. "And yes, we should have been honest with each other earlier, but we're being honest now. That's what matters." "Is it?" Richard asked. "Nathan, be realistic. You've been married for 4 hours, and already you've learned that your wife's parents were drug addicts and criminals, that her entire family history is a lie. How many other secrets are there?" "There are no other secrets," Mia said. "I swear, this was the only thing I was hiding, and I wasn't hiding it to deceive Nathan. I was hiding it because I was ashamed, because I didn't want him to look at me differently, because I was afraid he'd leave me if he knew the truth." Nathan pulled her close. "I'm not leaving you, ever. Mia, I meant my vows for better or worse. This is the worse, and I'm still here." Emily, Nathan's sister, spoke for the first time. She'd been quiet until now, just watching and listening. "Can I say something?" "Of course," Nathan said. "I think everyone is being too hard on Mia. Yes, she kept a secret, but think about what she learned. Her parents, the people she thought were heroes, turned out to be deeply flawed. Her mother was an addict. Her father was a criminal. They died not in a tragic accident, but because they were running from consequences. How do you process that? How do you tell people that without feeling like you're betraying the memory of your parents? Thank you, Emily, Mia said quietly. I'm not done, but also, Mia, you should have told Nathan before the wedding, before you made vows to each other. Marriage requires honesty, complete honesty, and starting your marriage with a secret this big, that was a mistake. I know, Mia whispered. I know it was a mistake, but I was so scared. Scared that Nathan would leave me, scared that his family wouldn't accept me, scared that everyone would see me as the daughter of criminals instead of as myself. We would have accepted you, Patricia said, though her tone suggested she wasn't entirely certain. But we would have wanted to know. We would have wanted Nathan to go into this marriage with his eyes open. My eyes are open, Nathan said. And I'm choosing Mia. I'm choosing our marriage. Mom, Dad, I love you. But if you can't accept my wife, all of her, including her complicated past, then we're going to have a problem. The threat hung in the air. Patricia looked stricken. Richard's jaw tightened, but neither of them said anything. I stepped forward. Patricia, Richard, I understand your concerns, but let me tell you what I know about Mia. She spent 15 years overcoming trauma, losing her parents at 8 years old, living with grief and unanswered questions. And despite all of that, she's become an incredible woman. She's graduated college with honors. She's built a successful career. She's kind, thoughtful, and genuine. Yes, she made a mistake keeping this secret. But that one mistake doesn't erase everything good about her. I hear what you're saying, Patricia said carefully. But Mrs. Carter, with all due respect, you didn't know the truth about your own daughter. You spent 15 years believing a fantasy. How can we trust your judgment about Mia? The words stung because they were fair. I had been blind to Sarah's problems. I had created a narrative that protected me from painful truths. Maybe I was doing the same thing with Mia. You're right, I admitted. I was blind to Sarah's addiction. I saw what I wanted to see instead of what was really there, but I'm not blind about Mia. I've watched her every day for 15 years. I've seen her character tested repeatedly, and she's proven herself over and over. Yes, she kept this secret from me. But Patricia, she kept it because I taught her to keep secrets, because I modeled hiding from painful truths. She learned that behavior from me. Mia stood up, wiping her tears. I need to say something to all of you. Yes, I kept a secret. Yes, I should have been honest sooner, but I'm done hiding. I'm done pretending. My parents were Marcus and Sarah Carter. They were complicated people who struggled with addiction and made terrible choices. They died because those choices caught up with them. That's my history. That's my truth. And if any of you can't accept that, then I understand. But I won't apologize for who I am or where I came from anymore. There was strength in her voice I'd never heard before. Mia had spent her whole life as the victim of tragedy, the girl who'd lost her parents. But standing there, claiming her truth despite how ugly it was, she looked like something else. Like a survivor. Like a woman who'd stopped running from her past. I'm proud of you, I said, and I meant it. Nathan pulled Mia into his arms. I'm proud of you too. And Mia, I meant what I said. No more secrets between us. Ever. Can you promise me that? I promise. Nathan, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't tell you before the wedding. You deserve to know. You deserve to make an informed choice about marrying me. I made an informed choice. I chose you. I'll always choose you. They held each other while the rest of us watched. Patricia's expression had softened slightly. Richard still looked troubled, but less hostile. Then there was a knock on the door. The wedding coordinator poked her head in. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I need to know what you want to do. Should we serve dinner? Should we send the guests home? The catering staff needs direction. We all looked at each other. The wedding reception had been completely derailed. How could we possibly continue celebrating after what had just happened? We should cancel, Patricia said. Send everyone home. This day is ruined. No, Mia said firmly. We're not canceling. We're going back out there. We're having dinner and dancing and celebrating. Because despite everything that just happened, I'm still married to the man I love. And that's worth celebrating. Mia, be reasonable, Richard said. Everyone just heard. Everyone just heard the truth about my past. Fine, they know now. But that doesn't change the fact that Nathan and I got married today. That we made vows to each other. that we're starting our life together. I won't let my parents' mistakes or Katherine Hayes' dramatic revelation steal this day from us." Nathan looked at her with admiration. "Are you sure? We don't have to." "I'm sure. Nathan, our guests came here to celebrate our wedding. They got dressed up. They traveled. They brought gifts. Some of them are probably uncomfortable now, but they're still here. And I want to give them a beautiful evening. I want to dance with my husband. I want to celebrate with my grandmother. I want to have the reception we planned." "Then that's what we'll do," Nathan said. He looked at the wedding coordinator. "Serve dinner. Continue with the schedule. We're celebrating." The coordinator looked relieved. "Of course, I'll let the staff know." After she left, Patricia said, "Mia, I admire your strength, but are you prepared for the questions, the stares, the whispers? Everyone out there just learned the most private, painful details of your family history. Let them whisper. I'm done hiding. If people want to judge me based on my parents' mistakes, that's their problem, not mine." We returned to the ballroom. As we entered, conversations stopped. Heads turned. I could feel the weight of 200 pairs of eyes on us. But Mia walked to the head table with her head high. Nathan beside her, holding her hand. And I followed them, proud of my granddaughter's courage even as my heart ached for everything she'd had to endure. The dinner was awkward at first. Conversations were stilted. People kept glancing at us. But gradually, as the meal progressed, the atmosphere began to relax. The shock was wearing off. People were processing what they'd learned and deciding how to move forward. When dinner ended, the DJ announced the first dance. Mia and Nathan took the floor, and as they swayed to the music, I saw other guests begin to smile, begin to remember why they were here, begin to celebrate the couple instead of dwelling on the drama. After the first dance came the parent dances. Nathan danced with his mother. And then it was time for Mia to dance with her father figure, except she didn't have one. She'd never had a father or grandfather to dance with. So the DJ announced, "And now, the bride will dance with her grandmother, Evelyn Carter, who raised her with love and dedication." Mia came to me, took my hands, and we stepped onto the dance floor together. As we danced, she whispered, "I'm sorry, Grandma. Sorry I kept secrets. Sorry I doubted you. Sorry I didn't trust you with the truth." "I'm sorry, too. Sorry I created an environment where you felt you had to hide. Sorry I taught you to run from painful truths instead of facing them. Sorry I wasn't the grandmother you deserved. You were exactly the grandmother I needed. You kept me alive when I wanted to die. You gave me hope when I had none. You loved me when I felt unlovable. Grandma, you saved me." And you saved me. After Sarah died, I was drowning in grief, but I had you, and you gave me a reason to keep going. We saved each other, baby. As we danced, I looked around the ballroom. Despite everything, despite the dramatic revelation and the uncomfortable truths, people were celebrating. They were dancing. They were toasting the newlyweds. They were choosing to focus on love and hope rather than pain and scandal. And I realized something. Katherine Hayes had been right to tell the truth. Yes, it was painful. Yes, it was embarrassing. Yes, it disrupted a perfect wedding. But it also freed us. Freed Mia from the burden of secrets. Freed me from the fantasy I'd been clinging to. Freed our family from 15 years of lies. The truth had shattered everything. But sometimes things need to be shattered before they can be rebuilt stronger. After our dance, Katherine Hayes reappeared. She'd been standing in the doorway, watching. When she saw me notice her, she approached hesitantly. "Mrs. Carter, I owe you an apology. I shouldn't have done it this way. I shouldn't have crashed the wedding and exposed everything so publicly. I was just so desperate to make Mia listen, to make sure she didn't start her marriage with secrets like her parents had." "You were right to tell the truth. I'm angry about the timing and the method, but you were right. Mia needed to stop hiding, and I needed to stop pretending." "Can I ask you something? The prescription records for Sarah, did you really not know about her addiction?" I thought about it honestly. I suspected something was wrong, but I told myself it was stress, work pressure, marriage difficulties, anything but addiction, because admitting Sarah had a problem would have meant admitting I'd failed as a mother, that I hadn't protected her, so I looked away. And by the time I might have done something, it was too late. You didn't fail as a mother. Addiction is a disease. Sarah made her own choices. But I could have tried to help her. If I'd been honest about what I was seeing instead of pretending everything was fine. Maybe, or maybe she would have hidden it better, pushed you away. Addicts are very good at concealment when they want to be. I looked at this woman, this stranger who'd blown up my granddaughter's wedding, and saw someone who'd also been hurt by Sarah and Marcus's choices. Someone who'd lost her husband because of their actions. Katherine, I'm sorry about Robert. He died trying to do the right thing, trying to stop them from making an even bigger mistake. He did, and I've been angry about that for 15 years. Angry at Marcus for embezzling. Angry at Sarah for her addiction. Angry at Robert for confronting them instead of just calling the police. But anger doesn't bring him back. It just keeps me trapped in the past. What changed? What made you decide to find Mia now? I heard she was getting married, and I thought about how Robert's last wish was for Mia to know the truth, for her to understand who her parents really were. I've been carrying that burden for 15 years, trying to honor Robert's dying request. When I heard about the wedding, I knew it was time. Mia deserved to start her marriage with honesty. Even if that honesty ruined her wedding day. Her wedding day isn't ruined. Look. Katherine gestured to the dance floor where Mia and Nathan were laughing together, surrounded by dancing guests. She's free now, free from secrets, free from shame, free to be herself completely. That's worth more than a perfect wedding reception. And watching my granddaughter dance with her new husband, seeing the relief on her face despite the tears, I realized Katherine was right. The wedding had been perfect until the microphone changed hands. But what came after, painful as it was, had given us something more valuable than perfection. It had given us truth, and freedom, and a foundation to build something real. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The reception continued late into the night. Gradually, the tension dissolved. Guests who'd been shocked and uncomfortable began to approach Mia and me, offering words of support. Some shared their own family secrets, addiction, bankruptcy, scandals that had been hidden for years. It seemed our public exposure had given others permission to be honest about their own imperfect families. Nathan's cousin pulled me aside. "Mrs. Carter, I want you to know, what happened tonight doesn't change how I see Mia. She's wonderful. Nathan is lucky to have her." An older woman I didn't recognize introduced herself. "I'm Patricia's sister, and I want to apologize for my sister's initial reaction. She's protective, but she'll come around. Anyone can see how much Nathan and Mia love each other." By midnight, as the reception was winding down, I found myself sitting with Katherine Hayes at a quiet table in the corner. "You're staying?" I asked, surprised. "Mia invited me. After the parent dances, she came over and asked me to stay. Said she wanted to hear more about Robert, about what he was like, about why he cared enough to try to stop her parents." "What did you tell her?" "I told her Robert was a man of integrity, that he couldn't stand by and watch someone commit crimes, even his business partner, that he believed in accountability and consequences, and that his last thoughts were about making sure she knew the truth." That must have been hard for her to hear. It was, but I think it helped too. She spent 15 years thinking her parents died in a meaningless accident. At least now she knows there was meaning, even if it's complicated and painful. They died because they made choices. Bad choices, but choices nonetheless. That's different from random tragedy. I thought about that. You're right. For years, I've told Mia her parents' deaths were senseless, just bad luck. But knowing there was a reason, even a terrible reason, maybe that does provide some closure. "Mrs. Carter, can I ask you something personal? After everything that's happened tonight, I think you've earned the right. Did you really not know about Sarah's addiction? Not even a little bit." I was quiet for a long moment, wrestling with the truth. Finally, I said, "I knew something was wrong. In the months before she died, Sarah was different, distant, erratic. She'd call me at odd hours, sometimes incoherent. She'd cancel plans constantly. She lost weight. Her eyes looked empty sometimes, like she wasn't really there." But you didn't confront her. I tried once, about 3 months before she died. I asked if everything was okay, if she needed help. She got furious, accused me of being controlling, said I was imagining problems that didn't exist. She said if I kept questioning her, she'd stop letting me see Mia, so I backed off. She threatened to keep you from your granddaughter. Yes, and I couldn't risk that. Mia was my world. So I told myself Sarah was just stressed, just going through a difficult time, that she'd be fine. And I looked away from the signs that said she wasn't fine at all. That must be a heavy burden to carry. It is, because if I'd been braver, if I'd pushed harder, maybe I could have gotten Sarah help. Maybe she'd still be alive. Maybe Marcus wouldn't have felt desperate enough to embezzle millions. Maybe Robert would still be alive too. Or maybe Sarah would have cut you off from Mia and continued down the same path anyway. You can't know what would have happened, Mrs. Carter. You made the choice that seemed right at the time. I made the choice that was easiest. That's not the same as right. Katherine reached across the table and took my hand. We all make choices we regret. I've spent 15 years wishing Robert had just called the police instead of confronting Marcus himself. If he had, he'd still be alive. But he made the choice he thought was right. And so did you. We can't go back and change the past. We can only try to do better moving forward. Is that what you're doing? Telling Mia the truth? That's your way of doing better? Yes, I spent 15 years angry and bitter. I blamed Sarah and Marcus for Robert's death. And they were responsible, absolutely. But holding on to that anger was destroying me. My therapist finally helped me see that the only way to heal was to complete Robert's final wish, to tell Mia the truth. So I found her. And I tried to give her what Robert wanted her to have, honesty. Even if that honesty hurt her. Truth can hurt, but lies hurt worse in the long run. Mia was living a lie, building her life on a foundation of fantasy. That's not sustainable. Eventually, it would have crumbled. At least now she can build on truth, even if that truth is painful. I looked across the ballroom at Mia. She was laughing with Nathan, her head on his shoulder, looking exhausted but somehow lighter, like a weight had been lifted. She does look freer, I admitted. Because she is, no more secrets, no more shame, no more pretending. She can be fully herself now. That's a gift, even if it came wrapped in pain. As the last guests departed, as the venue staff began breaking down the decorations, our small family gathered one final time. Me, Mia, Nathan, and Katherine. Patricia and Richard had left earlier, still processing everything, but promising to call tomorrow. I want to say something, Mia announced. To all of you, today was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, and in some ways it was. I married the man I love. But it was also one of the hardest days, having my family's secrets exposed in front of everyone, confronting truths I've been running from, admitting mistakes I've made. She looked at Katherine. Katherine, when you first contacted me 8 months ago, I was furious. I thought you were trying to hurt me, trying to destroy the memory of my parents. But you weren't. You were trying to free me. And I'm grateful. I wish you'd done it privately instead of at my wedding, but I understand why you did what you did. Thank you for caring enough about my father's business partner's dying wish to track me down. Thank you for not giving up on me even when I blocked you everywhere. Thank you for forcing me to face the truth. Katherine's eyes filled with tears. Thank you for saying that. I've been so worried I did the wrong thing, that I ruined your wedding day. You didn't ruin it. You transformed it. Instead of starting my marriage with a secret eating away at me, I'm starting it with honesty. That's a better foundation than any perfect reception could provide. Mia turned to me. Grandma, I'm sorry I didn't tell you the truth when I learned it. I'm sorry I let you keep believing the fantasy. But I'm also grateful, so grateful for the 15 years you spent protecting me, for the stability you gave me, for the love you showed me every single day. You raised me to be strong enough to handle the truth, and now that I know it, I can move forward. I'm sorry too, I said. Sorry I taught you to hide from difficult truths. Sorry I created a fairy tale instead of being honest about your parents' struggles. But Mia, everything I did because I loved you, because I wanted to protect you from more pain. I see now that wasn't the right choice, but it came from love. I know it did. And Grandma, I forgive you, completely. Can you forgive me for keeping secrets? Of course, there's nothing to forgive. You were trying to process an impossible situation. I understand that now. We hugged, both of us crying, both of us finally free to be honest with each other. Nathan spoke next. I want to say something too. Today I learned things about my wife's family that shocked me, but I also learned something about my wife. Mia, you showed incredible courage tonight, standing up after Katherine exposed everything, refusing to hide or be ashamed, choosing to continue celebrating despite the drama. I've never been more proud to be your husband. Nathan, I'm sorry I kept this from you. I know, and we'll work through that. But Mia, I meant what I said. I chose you. I'm choosing you. Whatever comes next, we face it together. They kissed, and I felt hope bloom in my chest. These two young people were starting their marriage with honesty, with full knowledge of each other's histories and flaws. That was rare. That was precious. Katherine cleared her throat. There's one more thing, something I haven't told anyone yet, something I think you should know, Mia. What is it? The money Marcus embezzled. It was never recovered. Authorities searched for years, but they couldn't find it. Everyone assumed it was in an offshore account somewhere, inaccessible. But I've been doing some research, and I think I might know where it is. The room went silent. What do you mean? I asked. Marcus was smart. He knew if he put the money in his own accounts, it could be traced. So he didn't. He put it in someone else's name, someone he trusted, someone who didn't know what he'd done. Who? Mia asked, though something in her voice suggested she already knew. You, Mia, I think Marcus put the embezzled money in a trust fund in your name. A trust fund that would become accessible when you turned 25. I did the math quickly. Mia's 23 now. She turns 25 in 2 years. Exactly. And if I'm right, in 2 years, Mia will suddenly have access to millions of dollars. Money that was stolen from investors. Money that belongs to people Marcus defrauded. Mia looked sick. No, I can't. Grandma, did you know about a trust fund? I knew Marcus set something up for you. He mentioned it once, said it was for your future. But I thought it was just a small college fund. Maybe $20,000 or $30,000. I never imagined it was millions. If this money exists, Nathan said slowly, what should we do about it? That's up to Mia, Katherine said. Legally, if the money is in her name and she didn't know its source, she might be able to keep it. But ethically, it belongs to the people my father stole it from, Mia said firmly. If this money exists, I'm not keeping it. I'll work with authorities to return it to the investors who lost it. Mia, that's millions of dollars, Nathan said. Are you sure? I'm completely sure. Nathan, I don't want blood money. I don't want to profit from my father's crimes. If I kept that money, I'd be just as guilty as he was. No. If it exists, it goes back to the people it was stolen from. Katherine smiled. That's what I hoped you'd say. Mia, you're nothing like your father. You have integrity he lacked. I'm going to help you work with the authorities. Together, we'll make sure that money, if it exists, goes where it belongs. Thank you. And Katherine, I want to ask you something. The investors my father defrauded, were you and Robert among them? No, Robert discovered the embezzlement before Marcus had taken money from us. But many of Robert's friends lost their retirement savings, lost everything because they trusted Marcus. Then I'll make sure they get their money back. It's the least I can do. As we finally left the venue at 2 a.m, exhausted and emotionally drained, I reflected on everything that had happened. The wedding had been perfect, beautiful venue, elegant decorations, happy couple, loving family. Until the microphone changed hands, until Katherine Hayes spoke the truth, until everything shattered. But sometimes shattering is necessary. Sometimes you have to break something before you can build it better. 3 months after the wedding, Mia came to my apartment with news. Grandma, Katherine was right. The money exists. Marcus set up a trust fund in my name when I was 5 years old. It's been sitting there, accumulating interest for 18 years. The current balance is $3.7 million. I felt faint. That much. And Grandma, I've been working with the FBI. They've identified all of Marcus's victims. every investor he defrauded. The money is being returned to them, every penny. I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have kept it, not knowing where it came from, not knowing how many lives Dad ruined to accumulate it. But Grandma, there's something else. Something the FBI told me. What? Mom's addiction, it started after a car accident. She was prescribed painkillers for her back injury. But the FBI found evidence that she was getting pills from other sources too, illegal sources, and Dad knew about it. He tried to get her help multiple times. He put her in rehab twice, but she kept relapsing. I didn't know that. Nobody did. Dad kept it secret because he was trying to protect Mom, protect her reputation. But Grandma, he loved her. Despite everything, despite the addiction, despite the lies, he loved her. And he was trying to help her the only way he knew how. By embezzling millions of dollars. By getting her the treatment she needed, luxury rehab centers, private doctors, experimental treatments, all of it was expensive, too expensive for their legitimate income. So Dad started taking money, at first just a little, then more. Then it spiraled until he couldn't stop. I thought about Marcus, the son-in-law I'd never fully understood, who'd seemed distant and cold. Maybe he hadn't been cold. Maybe he'd been drowning, desperately trying to save the woman he loved while everything fell apart around him. Does that excuse what he did? I asked. No, nothing excuses stealing, but it helps me understand why he did it. He wasn't a monster. He was a man who made terrible choices trying to help someone he loved. Just like I made terrible choices trying to protect you. Exactly, we all make mistakes. The question is whether we take responsibility for them. Dad never got the chance to take responsibility. But I can, by returning the money, by being honest, by living differently than he did. 6 months after the wedding, Nathan's parents invited Mia and me to dinner. Patricia had been distant since the wedding, clearly struggling with what she'd learned. But she'd called that week and asked if we could meet. At dinner, Patricia was stiff and formal at first, but midway through the meal, she put down her fork and looked at Mia. I owe you an apology. At your wedding, I reacted badly. I questioned whether you were good enough for Nathan. I suggested your parents' problems might affect your marriage. I was wrong. Thank you for saying that, Mia said quietly. I've been watching you these past 6 months, watching how you handled the revelation about the trust fund, watching how you worked with authorities to return that money, watching how you've been honest with Nathan about everything. And Mia, you've shown more integrity than most people show in a lifetime. You're not your parents. You're better than them. And I'm proud to have you as my daughter-in-law. Mia started crying. That means everything to me. I've been so worried that you'd always see me as the girl with the criminal parents, that you'd never fully accept me. I see you for who you are, a woman of character who's overcome tremendous obstacles. Nathan is lucky to have you. After dinner, as Nathan and his father talked in the living room, Patricia pulled me aside. Mrs. Carter, I want to apologize to you too. I judged you. I assumed you were a bad mother because you didn't see your daughter's addiction. But I've been thinking about that, about how hard it must have been to raise Mia alone after losing Sarah, about how you did the best you could with an impossible situation. I'm sorry I was harsh with you. Thank you, that means a lot. Patricia, I did fail Sarah in some ways. I looked away when I should have asked questions. But you're right, I did the best I could with Mia. And she's turned out wonderfully despite her difficult start. She has, and that's because of you. You gave her stability when her world fell apart. You loved her unconditionally. You raised her to be strong and honest. That's good parenting, even if it came with some mistakes along the way. 1 year after the wedding, Mia and Nathan hosted a small gathering at their new house. Me, Katherine, Nathan's family, and a few close friends. We want to celebrate something, Mia announced. All of the embezzled money has been returned to investors. Every single person Dad defrauded has been made whole. And Katherine, because of you, because you had the courage to tell the truth, justice has finally been served. Not legal justice, Dad's crimes died with him, but moral justice. The money is where it belongs. Katherine smiled through tears. Thank you, Mia. You didn't have to do this. You could have kept that money." "No, I couldn't. Not and live with myself. Katherine, you gave me the truth. I'm giving those investors their money back. It seems like a fair exchange." "There's something else," Nathan added. "Mia and I have decided to establish a foundation. The Sarah and Marcus Carter Memorial Fund. It will provide support for families affected by addiction. Treatment scholarships, family counseling, support groups. We want something good to come from their mistakes." I felt tears streaming down my face. Sarah would have loved that. Despite everything, despite all her problems, she loved helping people. This would have meant the world to her. "That's why we're doing it," Mia said. "Because my parents were more than their worst choices. They were complex people who struggled with difficult things. They made terrible mistakes, but they also loved me. And I want to honor both truths, their failures and their love." As the evening wound down, as guests departed and Nathan cleaned up the kitchen, Mia and I sat together on her back porch. "Grandma, can I ask you something?" "Anything, honey." "Do you think Mom and Dad would be proud of me, of the person I've become?" I thought carefully before answering. "I think they'd be amazed by you, by your strength, by your integrity, by your courage to face the truth instead of running from it like they did. Yes, baby, I think they'd be incredibly proud." "I hope so, because for a long time I was so angry at them. Angry they'd lied. Angry they'd made such terrible choices. Angry they'd left me. But I'm working through that anger now. I'm learning to see them as whole people, flawed and broken, but also loving and human. That's healthy, that's growth. And Grandma, I want you to know, I'm not angry at you anymore either, for the secrets you kept, for the fairy tale you told. I understand now that you were protecting me the only way you knew how, just like Dad was protecting Mom. We all do the best we can with what we know at the time. I wish I'd known better, done better. You did exactly what I needed. You kept me alive. You kept me hopeful. You loved me fiercely. And when the truth finally came out, you didn't defend the lies. You admitted your mistakes. You chose honesty. That's all I could ask for. I love you, Mia, more than anything in this world. I love you too. And Grandma, thank you. Thank you for raising me. Thank you for sacrificing for me. Thank you for being there when no one else was. Thank you for being honest when it mattered most. You saved my life, and I'll never forget that. As I drove home that night, I thought about the wedding, about how perfect it had been until Katherine took the microphone, about how that single moment had shattered everything, my fantasy about Sarah, Mia's image of her parents, our family's carefully constructed narrative. But the shattering had been necessary, because what we'd built on lies couldn't last. It would have crumbled eventually under the weight of deception. By forcing us to face the truth, painful, ugly, complicated truth, Katherine had given us the chance to rebuild on a foundation of honesty. And what we'd built since then was stronger, more real, more meaningful than the fantasy ever could have been. My granddaughter's wedding had been perfect until the microphone changed hands. But that imperfect moment, that dramatic revelation, that public exposure of family secrets, it had been the best thing that could have happened to us. Because truth, even painful truth, sets you free. And freedom, even when it comes wrapped in heartbreak, is always worth the cost.